Hey everyone, welcome back to New Method Live. So excited that you're here. And today we're talking about one of my favorite topics. It's called adrenal fatigue. So this is for those of you who are exhausted. Are you always walking around saying, man, why am I dragging? Why am I so tired? Or maybe you're feeling more irritable than usual. Like maybe things are just snapping faster, things that didn't get to you get to you more. Are you one of those people who are like in the afternoon you have to have your Starbucks or your Dunkin' Donuts, or maybe you need to reach for snacks, some cookies or salty? Some people look for potato chips in the afternoon. Are you pumping yourself up with stuff to get you through the day? And you probably went to your doctor, the doctor did all the blood work and said you're fine. You're fine. And your neighbors or your cousins or your friends are telling you you're supposed to feel tired. It's your age, it's your weight, it's your hormones. You're so stressed. You're supposed to be tired. Well, I'm going to tell you this. You're not supposed to be tired. If you're feeling this tired all the time, you've already went to the doctor as they told you nothing's wrong with you. It's time to consider the diagnosis of adrenal fatigue, which is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what it is, how we get it, how we test for it, and of course, how we fix it. So some docs don't believe in adrenal fatigue, and that's okay. In the medical world, when we talk about our adrenals, we really only talk about two extremes. If the adrenals are producing too much, we call it Cushing's. And if they're producing too little, it's called Addison's. Don't worry, you don't need to know this. But they're both extremes. They're both very, very sick people. The Cushing's people are sick, maybe even in the ICU. The Addison's people are sick, sometimes even in the ICU. But for some reason in the medical world, there's nothing in between. You either have this, or you're fine. And you know by now that you're probably not fine. That being said, I do want to caution you, never, ever self-diagnose. I don't know if you're the person who Googles and thinks you have everything, or if your cousin is the person who Googles and thinks you have everything. Do not self-diagnose. It's very dangerous, okay? So if you're feeling fatigued, this is just like with leaky gut, if you had belly issues. If you're feeling fatigued, I need you to see your PCP. I need him or her to run blood work on you. If they want to send you to a specialist, you're going to go to that specialist. You're going to do everything they want you to do. And then when they tell you everything is fine, that's when you're going to consider adrenal fatigue as a diagnosis. And that's when you're going to come to me or to another functional medicine provider to get you that diagnosis and help you through it. Okay. But no self-diagnosing. Don't just say, oh, I'm tired, I must have it. Okay. Make sure you rule out all other potential diseases before we go here. So adrenal fatigue is because we're talking about adrenals. Adrenals are these little triangle-shaped glands that sit on top of our kidneys, and their job is to produce a whole bunch of hormones. One of the hormones they produce is cortisol. So cortisol is a very important steroid hormone, and it has a lot of important jobs: metabolism, immune system, blood pressure, heart rate. It's involved in a lot of things. One of the things that it does is it wakes us up in the morning. So in a perfect world, you are designed to wake up naturally in the morning as the cortisol rises. So it's super high in the morning. You wake up feeling energized. And then as the day goes down, it gets a little lower and lower and lower until we're ready to go to sleep. And that's what melatonin takes over. But cortisol is also our stress hormone. Okay, it's part of the fight or flight response. So if you're walking in the parking lot and you're alone and it's dark and you hear some footsteps and you're like, oh man, I need to get to my car. I don't know what's going on here, right? That hyper focus. I got to get to my car, I'm holding my keys. I know where my phone is and I'm just trying to get to my car no matter what. Part of that response is cortisol. Adrenaline is also part of that, but that's not what we're talking about today. But cortisol is part of that also. So cortisol is our stress hormone. It helps us get through the stressful part of whatever we're dealing with. And you might say, okay, E, awesome, but I don't go to parking lots at night. In fact, I don't even have a car. So what are you talking about? Well, I'm talking about stress, right? You definitely have stress because you're alive. So stress, you go to work, you go to school, you take care of your parents, you take care of your kids, finances, whatever it takes, you are under stress. And your body does not know the difference between the parking lot stress and financial stress. It feels stress. So when it's stressed, it uses cortisol. It goes to the cortisol bank and says, hey, I'm stressed. I need some cortisol. And it makes a withdrawal. And you know, just like with your money, if you make a withdrawal every once in a while and you replenish it, you're good. But if you make a withdrawal every single day over and over again, you're going to go into bankruptcy. So if we go to the cortisol bank, that curve, and keep making withdrawals, we're going to go into bankruptcy. That's called adrenal fatigue. That place where that curve is kind of wonky and it's not doing well, that's adrenal fatigue. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. What are the symptoms of adrenal fatigue? Fatigue, obviously, it's called adrenal fatigue. Brain fog, not being able to think clearly. Difficulty falling asleep, which is interesting. You would think you'd be sleepy, but people with adrenal fatigue have trouble falling asleep. Difficulty waking up. Sweet cravings, salt cravings, decreased libido. All of these things can really affect how we perform at work, at home, with our kids, with our partners. Adrenal fatigue is draining. So why does this happen? Why is it, E, that if I'm going to the cortisol bank and I'm making withdrawals to get through the day, why would I have all these symptoms? Why would I have fatigue and brain fog? Well, that's because your body, when it's stressed, it's going to focus on stress. Okay, so let's go back to that metaphor. If I'm just worried about getting to my car, that's all I'm thinking about. That's all my body's just, it doesn't care if the heel on my shoe hurts. It doesn't care if I have a stomach pain at that moment. I am getting to that car because I am scared and I'm getting there. And the body is going to do everything it can to get me to that car. I'm going to know where my keys are. I'm going to know where my phone is, but I may not know where I left my paper from the office because that's not what's important right now. So it's going to focus on getting me to the car. That's what happens when we're stressed. When we're stressed all the time, making those withdrawals, the body's only worried about getting through the day, getting through the stress. So it's not going to worry about digestion. It's not going to worry about my immune system. It's not going to worry about my libido or my reproductive system. It's not going to worry about anything that it doesn't feel is essential to get us through stress. It's going to focus, it's going to say, hey, pump more sugar into the blood because we need to get through the day. Raise the blood pressure, we need to get through the day. Raise the heart rate, we need to get through the day. So all this cortisol is going to do is raise the sugar, raise the blood pressure, raise the heart rate, right? All of those sounds like diseases, diabetes, blood pressure, heart rate. So when you are overusing your cortisol because you're so stressed, you are depleting and you're going to end up feeling exhausted, fatigued, drained. That's what adrenal fatigue is. So now you know the why. Let's talk about how to test for it. Testing is really important because we want that objective data. We don't want to just, remember I said, don't jump to conclusions. Don't think you have it. Let's prove that you have it. So to test for adrenal fatigue, we test for the hormone cortisol. If you go to a usual doctor's office or nurse practitioner or PA, you know I love you all. There's two tests that are usually run and neither one of them is good, but I want to tell you about them. So if you were exposed to them, you know what not to ask for. The first one is an AM cortisol test. This is where you go to your provider's office and they stick a needle in your arm and they take a reading of your first morning cortisol test. Well, what am I going to do just with a first morning cortisol test? I just told you that I need to know your morning and your afternoon and what's happening in the evening. So how much information am I going to get from that morning cortisol test? Not much. Also, since a needle was used, most of us don't enjoy the experience of needle poking. So it's like, you have this moment which raises your cortisol. So you're probably not going to get an accurate reading of your cortisol because it just got elevated from that needle stick. So AM cortisol levels, not going to help us with adrenal fatigue. It has other uses, other medical uses, won't help us here. Another test you might have heard of is a 24-hour urine collection of cortisol. It's really, really sexy. You get this big jug and you have to pee in it for 24 hours, okay? And what is that going to give us? Well, it will tell us how much cortisol we produce in 24 hours. So that might help us in those extreme cases. Am I producing too much? Cushing's? Am I producing too little? Addison's? But it's not going to tell us much about the middle, right? Because the middle is probably producing the right amount over 24 hours. It's just not in the right places. And it's not going to tell me what's happening throughout the day. So 24-hour cortisol urine collection is not the way to go for adrenal fatigue testing. The way to go is saliva testing. And that's what we use at the new method. And a lot of other functional medicine providers will use this. The saliva testing, first of all, easy, right? There's no needles. It's easy. It's just you and your spit. Super easy. But we take it at least 4 times in a day. We use a 4-point testing, and there's also a 6-point testing, which means we get it first thing in the morning, we get it at lunch, we get it between lunch and dinner, and then we get it right around dinner or bedtime. So we get 4 points testing so we could see your levels throughout the day. We actually plotted it out on a graph so we could see. I want to know when your fatigue hits. Do you get a spike right before bedtime and that's why you can't sleep? Do you get a dip right after lunch and that's why you're dragging? Is your morning so low and that's why you can't get out of bed? So this 4-point and sometimes 6-point testing is so important to give us the picture of what's happening with you throughout the day. And that's why that AM needle stick is not good and the 24-hour urine is not good for adrenal fatigue. So you're looking for saliva testing for adrenal fatigue. Awesome. Now we know how to test for it. We are getting places. And of course, we do that here, but there's other functional medicine people who could do that as well. So just find us. We're here. We're ready to help you. And we all know it exists. So the next question is, how do I treat this E? I think I have it, or I know I have it. What do I do next? Well, you might think, okay, well, this whole thing's about stress. So she's going to tell me to meditate and get rid of my stress. And yeah, sure, I would love for everyone to meditate and get rid of their stress, but that's not what this conversation is about, because we all have stress. I can't tell you to suddenly not take care of your children and take them to band class, or not take care of your parents, or not worry about finances. The stress is there. There's nothing we could do about that. Side note, if you are in a terrible job or a terrible relationship, please try to get out because it will kill you slowly. But outside of that, regular stress, I can't make that go away. So the treatment is not in getting rid of the stress in your life. It's not getting rid of the emotional stress in your life. The treatment is getting rid of the physical stress in your life, because that we have control over. Diet is our first one. So if all day I'm eating all this processed foods and I'm asking my body, hey, in addition to managing everyone's schedule and finances and everything, I need you to also process all this really horrible food I'm going to put in my body. That's a stress the body does not need. So let's remove the processed foods. If I'm eating foods that make me bloated and cramping and not feeling good, guess what? That's a stress on the body. So if I could help the body along and say, you know what? Help me manage the stress at work or at home. I'm not going to continue stressing you and add more to the stress by also making you feel horrible. I'm going to feed you good foods that you don't need to spend a lot of time processing, that don't make us feel bloated, right? Because if there's pain, that's stress. So we want to help the body along. Sleep. Sleep is a biggie. If you're not sleeping enough and you're not letting your body recover, that's a stress you can control. And help your body out by sleeping. So some of you might say, but I can't sleep. Insomnia is one of my biggest issues. First, I'm going to tell you, you need to watch my sleep video because we talk about that. But second, quick and easy tip, if you're not eating well, you're not going to sleep well. If your last meal, which most Americans have a big meal at the evening, high carbs, maybe a little wine, maybe a little dessert, you feel sleepy, you feel good, that meal is going to completely disrupt your sleep. So a quick and easy way to fix your sleep is to fix your diet. And then, of course, to watch the video. We could talk more about it. But that's a quick and easy way. Fix that last meal. If that last meal is a mess, your sleep is going to be a mess. We need to get you sleeping. Caffeine. Caffeine's an issue. I'm not against caffeine. Everyone in the office will tell you I have coffee in the morning when I'm here, sometimes too. But caffeine after 12 is not good, because that 4 o'clock Starbucks that you got, 4 o'clock Dunkin' Donut that you got, whatever is happening, that power drink that you got at 4 o'clock, it doesn't just help you at 4 o'clock. It doesn't just help you get through the end of your shift. It stays in your system. And when it's time to go to sleep, you are wired. You cannot go to sleep. And we need that sleep. And we don't want all that extra stress, right? We want to remove the physical stress. And of course, exercise. Exercise is a little tricky. For those of you who feel invigorated after exercise, exercise is really going to help normalize your cortisol levels. But, and I need you to pay attention here, if exercise depletes you, if after you exercise you need to take a nap, don't exercise right now. This is not the right time. If you are this fatigued, if you have such severe adrenal fatigue that exercise wipes you out, it is a stressor for you and will worsen your adrenal fatigue. So exercise, If it invigorates you, try to get it in the morning. It's going to help you. But if it depletes you, you have to fix the adrenal fatigue first before you start to exercise. So pay attention to that. Super important. Exercise is not for everyone. Nothing is for everyone. We have to individualize things, right? That's what we're all about. So exercise only if it's appropriate. Supplements. Supplements are super important, right? It always is part of it. The diet, the exercise, the sleep, but supplements. There's a million supplements out there. You all know that. But there are some specifics designed for adrenals. And that's a whole talk in itself. But I do want to mention that vitamin C has to be a big part of your life. Vitamin B. And then there's this thing called glandulars, which are derived from animal products, and they're specifically designed to help you with your adrenals. For my vegans out there, don't worry. There are still supplements that can help you, but I just want you to know this word glandulars. Google it if you want to, but this is a supplement that's specifically designed for adrenals, and I want you to incorporate that into your life. I also want you to know that adrenal fatigue has different stages, a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And you'll know that from the testing that's done. And each one requires a little bit of a different approach. So once again, it's not a one size fits all. So now you know what it is. You know why it happens. You know how to test for it. And you know how to treat it. And as always, if this feels confusing, we're here for you. But the most important thing is you need to know is adrenal fatigue is so real. It's not in your head. And now you know about it.